Hey everybody, I'm Chris from Full Steam Designs. As you can see, I'm wearing one of my patriotic shirts today because we have a really special tutorial for you. We're going to be making a wavy flag using Carbide Create Pro. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button if this helps you out. Really appreciate it and it really helps the channel out. Let's get to it. Alright, I'm going to just start this tutorial by apologizing if I sniffle. I'm just getting over a cold. It's been a couple weeks actually, so please excuse me for doing that. But anyways, we're going to get started with Adobe Photoshop, and I'm just going to show you how I create these depth maps for the flags. Now, if you don't have Photoshop, don't worry about it. I'm going to make all these files available on the website for you, and I'll put a link in the description. But like I said, real quick, I'm just going to show you how I do this. So I've selected this brush tool, and I have the opacity turned down to 50%. And basically what I'm going to do is just make some lines, some curves, and however I want this to look in different directions. And what's going to happen is where there's these dark areas, that's going to be a high, and where there's light areas, that's going to be a low. We're going to save this as a PNG, and Carbide Create is going to interpret it as highs and lows by looking at that grayscale depth map. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this. I'm going to make a handful of them and host them on my website, so you guys will be able to try some different stuff, and I'll probably just keep coming up with different designs over time. So just keep checking on that. Like I said, you kind of just want to move slow and just make smooth lines. You can do like curves like this to make it look like it's flowing, or you can even have, a series of just kind of straight ones. And just keep working with those to come up with a design kind of like this. So there's a lot of things you can do with this. I'm not really going to spend a lot of time talking about this, but the design that I came up with that I'm going to use for this tutorial is this one here. And I know it looks kind of complicated and looks like it might look a little crazy, but it's going to look really cool when we import it. So let's go ahead and bring that into Carbide Create. We're using Carbide Create Pro here. This is version 4.13. So let's start by selecting the size. My normal flags are 21 by 11, so we're going to work on one that size first. And the material is actually 11.25. So we'll leave that alone. The material thickness is approximately 0.74. We have softwood selected, lower left corner, and the retract height. I've set it pretty low because I'm going to use screws to hold this down. So I don't have any clamps or anything like that to worry about. Just set this to what you're comfortable with and what is going to work for your setup. So we'll go ahead and click OK. And now what I'm actually going to do is I would like to put the screws in over here. Like the flag is actually going to be this size. And I'd like to have the screws here. So let's go ahead and make this a little bit longer actually. Let's make it 23 inches. That'll give us an extra inch on each side. And now the first thing we're going to do is bring this flag in. I'm also going to put this file on my website. This is the same flag I've used for all my other tutorials. So we'll group that together, and let's go ahead and center it. Let's make it a little bigger. So we'll make the height 11, and then it's approximately 21 inches for the width. Click OK, and we're still centered, so that's good. Now we're going to just create a line, and what I'm going to do, I want to make a rectangle around this, but the easiest and quickest thing that I've found to do is just click on these nodes here to get that exact shape. and get that last one. And as long as you've got an orange rectangle, that's a closed vector, and that's going to work perfect for us. So now we've got that rectangle, and then we've got the rest of the flag, and we're going to leave it just like that. So the first thing that we're going to do is we'll come over to Model. We're going to import a component, and I had saved that as Wave 2. I've got it right here. All right, so right now we're just looking at the 2D version of this. Let's go ahead and look at it in 3D. So now it's pretty wild looking, probably not how we want it to look. I'd like it to be a little thicker for like the base material height, and then I'd like these waves not to be, you know, as high. So we're gonna go ahead and change those. To make the waves not be as high, we'll come into this height here, and let's go ahead and change that to 0.2 and see how it looks. All right, so that brought it down quite a bit. You may want it a little higher than that. Let's see what 0.3 looks like. Yeah, I kind of like that. So let's go ahead and leave that. Now we've got to get the rest of our material thickness here. So we're going to come down to base height, and let's put in 0.2. Let's see what we get. Alright, that is still pretty thin. Let's try 0.4. Alright, that's starting to look a lot better. Now the important thing to see that we're doing here is we have add selected. There's a bunch of options with this, but I've left it on add. You've also got this XY scale. You can actually make this bigger or smaller. So right now we're at 1.035. Let's make it 0.5 just to show you what it does. So see, that's made it smaller, and it's, you know, only working on part of the flag. So we'll change that back to 1.035. All right, so now we had set our material thickness to 0.74. So what I want to do before I go any further, we're just going to click Done. And that's going to make it so that we can't edit much of that. We're going to be able to change the base material height. So I'm going to come over to Toolpath here. And I'll select that outside rectangle. And I'm just going to say 3D finish. And we're just doing this to see exactly where it's going to cut. We're not worried about the time. We're not worried about setting up you know, the proper bits that we're going to use or anything. We're just doing this to make sure that it's going to fit on our material quickly. All right, so that has finally ended up updating, and as you can see, it says 79 hours. Like I said, we're not going to worry about that. Let's go ahead and save this. It's very important to save often. I'm sure you've heard me say that a lot. Just make sure you're doing that. You don't want to lose any of your progress. So let's look at the simulation. All right, and what we're looking at is just to make sure that we don't have any flat spots. And I also look at these edges here just to make sure that they're not trying to protrude above this flat surface, because this is our 0.74, you know, approximately 3/4 of an inch, actually just be a flat spot and not get machined. So this looks like it's going to work. You could probably go a hair thicker, but I think for this demonstration, this should work pretty well. So we're going to go ahead and say that that setup is good for this. So just get rid of that. And all right, so we have the wave here, and you know that's this component. And then now what we need to do is add the rest of the details of the flag. So we're going to click on like the stars or one of these lines or something. We're not looking to grab just this outside. We want to make sure that we're just getting this flag here. And we're going to come over to this shape page here. All right, so we're going to leave this on flat. And what we're going to do is play around with this height. So let's look at it in 3D. So right now, it's adding 1 inch to the other material that we had. And that does look pretty cool. I'd actually really like, for this demonstration, that's not what we're doing. So let's bring it down to 0.1 and see how it looks. All right, so you can see now the height of each of these is actually 0.1 inches. All right, and basically you just need to play around with this until you get it the way that you like it. Maybe half of that will look even better. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. And don't worry about how choppy these stars are. That's just how the rendering is. There's options on this page here to change the model resolution. I've just got it set to standard because my computer's having a hard enough time keeping up with this right now while doing this screencast. But if you select very high, everything will look nicer. So we'll bring that back into 3D. And this is what we're going to go with. So we have add selected. You could also change it to subtract, which would make like the union and these stripes be lowered. It would remove it from this wavy material that we had put for our first layer. So we're going to go ahead and click done, and that's going to finalize this how it is. Right, and now we only have one more thing to do with the design. We need to get this so it'll be cut out. And what we're going to do is select this outside rectangle, and we're going to do a contour. So it's just like we're doing like a 2D contour, and this is actually going to be our first toolpath, so it really is going to be a 2D cut that we're doing. So let's go ahead and select an 1/8 inch end mill, the 102 bit. We can go ahead and change these feeds and speeds and everything around. I usually go with 0.05 for depth. Feed rate, I've been going pretty quick with that. I'll usually go about 60 on the inch per minutes for feed rate, and then 40 on the inch per minutes for the plunge rate. And honestly, a lot of times I'll turn that up to 200% and make it run even faster. So we want to make that a outside offset. I'm not going to cut all the way through. What we'll do is cut 0.5, a ½ inch through, and that's going to leave plenty of material to hold everything in place. And usually what I do is I come through on my table saw. If you want, set that to 0.74 or 0.75, and then go ahead and add your tabs just like you would normally do for doing an outside toolpath. But for the sake of this demonstration, this is how we're going to do it. So we'll make this the outside. All right, and now we need to start doing our 3D toolpaths. So we're going to start with a 3D rough, and I've still got that outside rectangle selected. Don't select anything else in here. You don't have to do that. So we'll go to 3D rough. It gives you the option of how much stock that you'd like to leave. This is going to be something that you can play around with. It's going to depend on your bit choice. But for this one, we'll set it to 0.1 inch that it's going to leave. And let's play with these feeds and speeds here. again, 0.05 on the depth per pass. It's probably not going to really need to remove too much material. Feed rate, again, we'll go 60 and 40, and you know, we may turn that up when we run it. So about an 1/8 inch bit for this to start. Why that change? All right, 0.1. All right, so that finally rendered, and let's check out that simulation. All right, and you can just see it's starting to carve everything out. It doesn't really look much like a wavy flag right now, but it will in a minute. So you can hide that simulation. We're going to say 3D finish now, and again, we've still got this outside rectangle selected. And for this, we're going to use an 063 ball. Okay, and again, let's change our speeds. The step over, let's make that a little bit tighter. Feed rate, let's go like 60 on that too, and 40 on the plunge. I know this seems like it's a lot, but 3D carving seems to run considerably different than your regular 2D or 2.5D. Like I said, these are going to be some good numbers to start with. And for the angle here, we're just going to leave this at 0, which is going to make it run this way. You can run it at like a 45-degree angle, but if you're doing stuff like pine, I find that I get some tear out when I do that. And if you run it just straight like this, it seems to come out a lot better. Let's go ahead and look at that simulation. All right, so this has our outline, which is going to be the first operation. Then it's got our rough, which you can't really see. We can turn the toolpaths on, and you'll kind of be able to see that there. These ones that are popping up here, that's our rough, actually. If you turn the rapids on, these are the rapids that are jumping around as it's doing the rough and moving from place to place. And then for the final toolpath, it's got the finish, the 3D finish. So you can see this does take a long time, and 3D carving does take a little while. You can play with these feed rates. I think the ones that I've put in here are a good safe start. And I'm actually going to run a demo here. I made a smaller one of these that I'm going to run a demo of, so I'm going to go ahead and open that up, and I'll show you how it runs at the end of this video. All right, so here's the smaller one that I'm going to be showing you guys for this demo. So for material, I have it set to 11 by 11.25. I have a lot of scraps this size. If you guys are making the same size flags I am, the 21 by 11, you're probably ending up with a piece left over that's about 11 by the 11.25. So I think this is just a good size to start with. It's, you know, not really wasting anything that I was going to use. But, you know, again, for this one, we've just got it set up 11 by 11.25. Z height is, or Z thickness, I'm sorry, is 0.74. My retract height is 0.1, and again, I'm just using screws. What I'm going to do is put screws in these locations here, right around the outside where I'm not going to be doing any machining, so it's not going to interfere. But if you're using clamps or something, you may want to raise that retract height. And, you know, we did everything the same here. Brought the model in just like we did on the other one. We've got the wave and then the stripes added. And then when we go to Toolpath, so what we've got here is the outside border. We've got the 3D rough. We've got a finish, and that was, these are all done with the same bits. We used an 1/8 inch, an 1/8 inch, and then we went to the 063 here. And it just didn't seem like enough because this was so small. It was hard to see the detail, you know, especially in these stars and everything. So I did another run at the end where I went with a 031 bit, and let me just show you my feeds and speeds here. So on that outside toolpath, I have the step over really doesn't matter. The depth per pass is 0.05, feed rate is 60, plunge rate is 40. We're coming down to a 1/2 inch. Make sure that you've selected outside. If you select pocket, you would cut all this out, or inside, you know, you would remove some of that outside material of your flag. So make sure you select outside. For the 3D rough, again, we've stuck with that 102 bit, which is just an 1/8 inch. I left the step over alone, 0.056. Depth per pass is 0.1. You know, you could probably have gone with 0.1 on the larger flag that we did. I forgot that I had set it like that. Feed rate, I've got set at 40 and 30, but I think 60 and 40 would be a good starting place. And for stock to leave, we've left it at 0.1. So on this one here, I actually ran the toolpath at an angle, and you'll see that in the video, 45-degree angle. I just thought it would make stuff look clearer in the video, but I didn't really like the finish that I got with it. So our step over is 0.028, and again, this is a 063 bit. It's a tapered ball. So 028 on the step over. Feed rate is 40, plunge rate is 30. Probably could have turned this up again to, you know, 60 and 40, and honestly, it probably could have gone a little faster than that. You know, I'm still learning this 3D carving stuff, so you know, I'm being a little conservative with my speeds. All right, and then this final path that I added, which was another finish tool path, is with a 031. Again, that's a tapered ball. Step over, I went to 0.01 inches, and it took a while to cut because of this. Feed rate is 60, plunge rate is 40. Probably could have gone a lot faster on there because it's hardly removing any material at all. But you know, again, that's a good conservative place to start for your first one or your first couple. I'd keep those numbers down. And that's it. So really, that's about everything. Like I said, I'm going to put the files up on my website. And all right, let's go ahead and we'll jump over to the router and get this thing cut out. Alright, that's about it for this tutorial. Thanks for checking it out. I hope it really helped you guys. And I look forward to seeing what you can come up with. I appreciate a thumbs up on the video and subscribe on the channel, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can find out when my new videos come out. And don't forget to check me out on Instagram at Full Steam Designs, and now I have my new website up, which is fullsteamdesigns.com. And that's where I'm going to be posting these files, and I'll post more files in the future just to help you guys get going on projects. So again, thank you. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys soon.